Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Untitled Reviews. This being a show where it's about TV shows that are dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Squid Game Season 1, Episode 8. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, this is the shortest episode of the season, I believe. Most episodes are like 50-some minutes to an hour. This one's only 32 minutes, which that was very interesting the moment I saw it. I was like, oh, that's such a short episode. But obviously, picking up in the aftermath of the previous game, Ji-hoon confronts Sang-woo. I mean, first and foremost, we see everyone walking. So we see Ji-hoon holding his arm because it's kind of messed up, and then so is or at least at the time it seemed like Sae-byeok was kind of holding her arm as well, but she was more so holding her side. What we see later on, she's got a huge piece of freaking shard of glass out of her side. But Ji-hoon had confronted Sang-woo about what he did. It's right, that guy was helping us. You didn't have to push him. It's oh, you're talking about that same guy who didn't give advice to the other people because he was waiting for those criminal bastards to kill themselves. But he's yeah, but you still didn't have to. He would have gone. It's well, I didn't know if we would have enough time. It's no, he was going to pick one. You didn't have to because this is Gi-hoon's first time really seeing this side of Sang-woo, even though it's always been there. It's just, they made it pretty clear from the beginning what kind of character Sang-woo was going to be, that type who would stab you in the back. It's use you and then toss you aside. It's but that's the thing, Ji-hoon thought, because he went into this thinking he knew who Sang-woo was. That is right, he kept being the one pushing the whole narrative of oh yeah, he's a super smart dude, he got into this good school and stuff like that. And every time Sang-woo would hear that praise, it'd make him look down, because it is this thing of everyone holds him such a standard, even to the point that you have Ji-hoon constantly talking about the fact is that he's the golden child of their area, that it's he's the golden child, everyone expects so much of him. And it's I think for him it's probably there was a lot of pressure in that, people expecting so much of him, but it's I'm not perfect, I falter and I fall. But for him, Ji-hoon's still why did you do that? And then Sang-woo was look at you, don't be an idiot. Because he was what if it was me? Would you have done the same thing? Don't ask such idiotic questions. But I love that, he's right, I may be an idiot. It's because he was saying those type of decisions, that type of thinking, not knowing when to just kind of shut up. And just you asking stupid questions is basically how you got to where you are. And he's right, maybe I am this, maybe I am that. But despite you being the golden child, you're right here in this hellhole with me. So what does that say about you? What does that say that you're in a place like this with me and we're here? Despite everything, you're here at the end with me. So they get sent off to change into different clothes, and they all get prepared for a meal. It's right, this is a congratulations for you all making it to the final three, for being the finalists. And obviously Gi-hoon and Sang-woo are eating really fast, because I think they're both trying to get prepared. It's whatever's coming next. Sang-woo's probably trying to eat as much as possible so he can keep an eye on Gi-hoon, and the same vice versa. And I think it's also probably a thing of, whoever finishes first, they're probably thinking that person might have an advantage going into the next game. But Gi-hoon's the only one that really turned and noticed that Sae-byeok was eating a lot slower. Because to be fair, she's super injured. She never had an opportunity to really patch her wound. She tore a shirt to make it a tourniquet, but that was it. She just did it to kind of at least add pressure to the wound, but she didn't actually patch it up, didn't have an opportunity. And why would they help her? Because something that comes up later on I thought was kind of interesting. I was why wouldn't they help her? Because it does put her at a disadvantage. But then again, it's right, this whole thing is supposed to put everyone on a playing field. It's just the thing is, she got unlucky. Whatever injuries you sustain, it's just that's the luck of the draw. Anyone else could have gotten injured just like her, but it's just that the glass shattering ended up stabbing her in the side, a pretty big one at that, doing a lot of damage. So it's just kind of it gets chalked up to everyone's here is still on even footing, because anyone could people did get hurt. It's just that she was unfortunate enough to be in a situation where she got hurt more. Maybe if someone had said something, things could have been swayed a little differently, but they were also looking for an opportunity to create some disturbance in the situation, because they made sure that when they took away everyone's plate, everyone was left in their knife, and everyone made sure to grab theirs. And so they're back in the room, which, man, because I guess I never really paid attention to the fact is, and I should have last episode, but I didn't. Like, right, it's not just the room looking emptier because there's less people. Like, as more people are dying, they're getting rid of the bed. So, of course, they would. So, it's just so spacious. You know, we went from 16 to 3. So, now to see, like, just their 3 beds spread across the 3 different points in the room that they're all watching. Well, at least, like, Gi-hoon is keeping his eye on Sung-woo. And it's like, because he doesn't trust him. He's like, yeah, that psychopath. But then he sees Se-byok, and he comes over, and he's like, hey, if I was going to kill you, I would have. You've been drifting for a while now. But it's like, right, let's work together, and then we can take out Sang-woo, because that guy's a psychopath. Even suggesting, like, right, we can split the money. Like, because even if we split the money, that's a lot of money that gets split, so we could do a lot with that, you know? And it's like, well, she asked, what's the first thing he's going to do with the money? For him, is I'm going to pay off my debts. Then I'm going to get a store, an actual store for my mom, not just a little stall that she's working at. And then he says, for the first time, I'll be an actual father to my daughter. And it's like, oh, how old is your daughter? And it's like, she's 10 years old. And you know, Se-byok's like, that's the same age my brother is. It's like, oh, like, she's like, I plan on getting, it's like, getting a house for me and my brother. Like, my family, it's like, where's your brother? He's living in an orphanage now, and my mom's in the north. So she wants to get enough money to get all of them together and also get a house for them. But then when it was all said and done, she's like, how about we make a deal? And the moment she was saying that, I was like, I knew where she was going with it. Whichever one of us wins, we take care of the other one's loved one. She's like, no, don't even worry about it. She's like, no, just please make a deal. Like, even if it just say it's there. Like, it doesn't have to come to that, but if it does, I'd rather have your word. He was like, just don't talk. Like, we'll win and we'll split the money and everything will be fine. And then he notices that Sang-woo was starting to drift off, and he decided, like, oh, I'm gonna use this opportunity. But Se-byok was like, don't do it. You're a good person at heart. Like, I know you are, so don't do that. And but what makes him stop eventually too was she passes out from her wound, and he tries to, like, hey, she's like, I just want to go home now. And, he tries to get her help. And they didn't open the door until it was too late. They only came in because they needed to dispose of her body. Because while he was distracted, Sung-woo felt like this was the perfect opportunity to kill Se-byok. Because either he thought, like, one, she's in a weakened state, so it's a perfect time to kill her. Two, even if he hurt Gi-hoon, it's like, right, you're still healthy enough that you could be an issue. So I'd rather weed out the weakest person. I mean, because he's already weeded out the strongest of the people. Deoksu is gone, so is Ali. To him, those were like the strongest people there. But now it's like, yeah, like, now it's just down to the 3 of them, and now just the 2 of them. And Gi-hoon comes over and he holds Se-byok's body. It's just like, no, what did you do? And Sang-woo kind of has that look like, I'm sorry I did what I did, but I had to. It's the only way. And just, and it's like, right. And it shows you the difference between them, because Se-byok told him not to do it and he didn't, but Sang-woo took the opportunity to kill her in her weakened state, and it shows the difference between, yeah, he might have considered, but he didn't do it, because he does have a better heart. Like, maybe he's he might be complicated in his own rights, but, and because the thing is, they've all had to do terrible things they're not happy about, and so it sucks that it's come down to this. And in that moment, Gi-hoon went to go attack Sung-woo, and they were about to go at it, but then the administrator stopped it. And at first I was like, why would you stop? And I was like, oh, right. The whole point with giving you knives is they wanted a circumstance like this, but also they can't have the 2 of you, the last surviving members, kill yourselves outside of a game. It's like, no, you have to play the 6th and final game. That's the only way we're going to find a winner. Like, yeah, normal circumstances, yeah, kill as many people as you want. It's part of the game. Like, we saw, like, Deoksu and his crew did that before. But it's like, this time it's like, there's only 2 of you left. We need you to settle this in the final game, whatever it may be. So that's the only reason why they stopped him. And in that moment, just like Sung-woo was just looking at that look in Gi-hoon's eyes, and we have no, like, they block out the audio, so you don't even get to hear what Gi-hoon is saying to him. And it's sad that it comes down to that, and just see, like, him looking and seeing Se-byok's body put in that box and a tear coming down his eye. It's just like, damn. I think especially because out of anyone, like, I would have expected to find, like, I was hoping at the end what would probably happen is, and I prepared myself for this potentiality, but what had crossed my mind was that basically it'd come down to Gi-hoon and Se-byok, and that they would somehow win, and then it come down to they still have to do something. But I thought maybe they'd find a way out of this. There's other examples of this. There's another movie that's in the same vein that I don't want to spoil it. It's a year. The movie came out in 2020, and it's something of this nature. That's already spoilerish enough, but you know, if you don't know what I'm referencing, you don't know what I'm referencing, and that's fine. That shit came out 2019, didn't it? Did it come out? No, I think it came out. Yeah, it was like January 2020, maybe. I don't remember. But regardless, it makes me think of that. I was thinking something of that nature. Maybe they'd be forced to turn on each other. Then who knows? But because I was also thinking of now this is another spoilerish thing, but I'm gonna be vague about it. I thought this was going to be if you've ever read Tower of God or you've even watched the anime, it's the season 1 finale of either one. Whether it's the manhwa, webtoon manhwa, or whether it's the anime, the season 1 finale is basically like the thing. The big thing. Like, if you've read it or watched it, you know what I'm talking about. I was almost expecting something of that nature, which, to be fair, I guess you could say this exactly was that. It's just like, oh, it grinds your gears. It's one of those moments you're like, damn you! So, regardless, it was a very Tower of God moment. That's all I can say. Season 1 finale of Tower of God moment. I'll leave it at that. But I would have expected that maybe between Gi-hoon and Sae-biop, but it's also like, that's not who either one of them is. Sung-woo is made, once again, they've set it up, they set the standard from the beginning to be like, yeah, he knew exactly what the second game, he had some idea about it, even though he's like, oh, we're a team and everything, he didn't let anyone else know, because he knew, like, right, he wanted to take a chance to see, like, maybe I am right, but rather than giving anyone an idea of what he was thinking, because maybe he thought, like, right, I'm gonna have us spread out, and he considered it with Gi-hoon, but he decided, no, like, they go back way enough that he was trying to do that, but once again, everyone's a means to an end, especially as we've rallied to the finale of this all, you know, but it's sad that it comes down to this, and now you kind of see, like, why they made this episode specifically so short, too, so, but that's not just all that goes down this episode. The other side of the episode is, Junho finding it, yeah, it was like I thought it was like him coming back to, I'm assuming that's the only island that's in the relative areas, I'm pretty sure, like, yeah, like, he came back to the island, like, he circled back. And so he's trying to get a signal. At first he calls up his chief. He's like, right, you need to send the Coast Guard. You need to send everybody. I think it speaks volumes, but at first I was like, I wonder, did he do it on purpose? But no, the front man shooting the tank, it's like, no, the oxygen tank was meant to make it so, like, right, he can't escape off the island again. That can't be his backup plan. It's like, right, you're cornering him on the island. But the front man made it clear, bring him to me alive. I was like, okay, like, there's already been plenty of hints to who you are. To me, you wanting him alive seems like that would be the case. But, Gi-hoon did get in contact with his chief, but he tried to send off some of the pics. It doesn't seem like all of them went through. It seems like the one of the ones that didn't get was like the VIP from last episode he took a picture of. It seemed like that one and another one didn't go through, but it seemed like the 3 before it might have. But yeah, the front man was like, yeah, you're cornered, like there's nowhere to go. And he brought up something interesting, which I always think it's so fascinating. Because I think because I'm not well versed in it, but because I grew up in American, because I grew up in, the US, like when you watch television, there's certain things like I don't know are a thing that they sprinkle into TV shows. And you're like, oh, is that a real thing? And it's like, yeah. And it's the same thing, like, my same experience has been like that with anime, manga, manhwa, is the fact is that a lot of, like, that's how I know the tiny bits I know about, like, Asian cultures here and there about it just because of the stuff I've watched and read, where it's like, because a lot of, yes, like, manga and anime are hyperbolized, but they will use a lot of, like, real cultural things, like in Japan, and even manhwa will do it, like, they'll take things from Korean culture, and some of it might be hyperbolized and used in a hyperbolized setting, but at the very least, it's bringing in a lot of, like, Korean culture into it, and it's like, that's what this did, because it brought up the police thing, and I was like, oh, that's fascinating. I don't think U.S. cops work that way, but police officers, like, their guns, it's his standard issue gun has 5 chambers. One has to be empty. One has to have a blank. The other 3, so at any given time, a cop can only have 3 bullets, 3 live rounds specifically. And I'm like, I'm curious. I love that. I got to do some research into that because I'm curious why that is, because that's so fascinating. Like, one being empty, one having to have a blank. I guess, but it's like, because I feel like that's Russian roulette. That it's like, I guess you would always have to know which one's the blank and which one's the because I guess, like, maybe depending on the circumstances, I don't know. maybe it's like maybe like that's designed like that, so it's not like like maybe Korea, like they, because I know a lot of countries in particular, like I think Asian countries typically, like their cops don't typically have weapons, or maybe that's just Japanese cops. I feel like, because I think cops don't use, I mean, I think the same thing applies in like Europe, isn't it? I mean, at least like the UK, I don't think the cops have guns, but I think that's specifically a Japanese thing of like there are no guns. Police officers typically don't, but it's like, I think maybe that's all across the board of Asia. Like, I mean, because it's not just an Asian thing too. Like I said, I feel like maybe Australia doesn't have guns with their police officers either. I could be talking out of my ass here. I don't know. But like, my thought was like, maybe it's like a non-excessive force. Like if you have to shoot someone 3 times, that way you're not unloading an entire gun into it, and like, regardless of what you're doing. Maybe that's the justification. I don't know. I'd love to look into the history and as to why that's a thing. But he's already used 2 shots. He's only got 1 left. And the moment he shoots the frontman, I was like, you probably don't want to go. Luckily, you didn't go for a headshot. But it's like, yeah, it's like, stop or you'll, like, come with me or you'll die. And he takes his mask off, and his Inho, his brother, and it's like, of course it is. Like, you know, and his brother's just like, come with me. But part of me was also like, didn't you just break the #1 rule? I mean, to be fair, the freaking host did the same thing too. He took off his mask. It's like, you're not supposed to take off your mask. Maybe maybe like they get that, like, maybe as long as you're not doing it in front of players, it's not an issue. Maybe that's what it is. But it seems like, no, like in general, you're just not supposed to take your mask off. But I think specifically it's in front of players is where that rule comes into play. Because it's like, you're not supposed to take them off, but in particular, you're not supposed to let a player see you. So I was like, well, Junho's not a player, so I guess that, because I was like, I'm surprised no one shot you. So it's either because you're the front man, so there's loopholes around the rule for you, or is it just because Junho wasn't a player, so it didn't technically break the rules? He did shoot his brother in the arm, but he's almost just like, why? Kind of trying to figure out, like, wait, why are you here? Why are you participating? We still don't know, like, what, because we know people are a part of this for some reason. All the administrative people, we still don't know who the host is, because when he took the mask off last episode, he never showed his face. We never even saw it, like, because at least with the front man, we saw his face maybe in, like, it was blurred, it was from a distance, but it was at least, like, it was at least, like, shown, even though it was, like, out of focus. You still saw it. In host, we didn't. But Junho got shot in the arm, which I'm like, you did that on purpose. You had to have done that on purpose because you wanted to make sure your brother had a higher chance of survival, but you don't know. You hope that maybe he survived. Because it's like, if you really wanted him dead, you could have gone for the headshot, but it's like, maybe you were nervous and your aim was 100% off. Maybe subconsciously you wanted your brother to survive, but you knew what had to be done. But he got shot and fell back. But I'm like, Junho's not dead. Like, if you wanted him dead, you would have gone center mash. You would have gone for the head or something. But, and shot him more than once. I kind of expected you to shoot him more after, like, as you shot him once, I halfway expected you to shoot him again. Like, maybe the next one would be center mass, the next one would be to the head. But it's like, no, you just let his body fall. He is looking at, like, the mirror, and he's thinking back to his brother being like, why? So it sucked. But so he believes he killed his brother, but I guess maybe on some level he hopes he didn't, but just moves on. So a lot of very, very interesting things as we move into the season finale. Next episode is, well, the season finale. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this wraps up. Who's going to come out the winner? Your money typically would be like, oh, you think it's going to be Gi-hun, but it's like, you never know what kind of twist they might pull on you. It's going to be interesting to see what the final game actually is. I wonder, is it going to be the Squid Game? Because I figured that was going to be, like, the final game. But, like, when we got introduced to it in the first episode. Sang-woo, like, I talked about it, like, I thought it was Ji-hoon that was, like, his voiceover in the beginning. I'd have to rewatch the first episode. But I think it's Sang-woo who is the one that's talking about the Squid Game and everything. But I think that's going to be the actual final game. I think that's going to be interesting because, like, that game we saw, it had a whole bunch of people. Now this is down. I guess, like, it depends just on how many people survive these final games and stuff like that. It would have been 3 people if he hadn't killed Sae-byeok, but they kind of counted on that. Which is also a part of me is like, you don't think she faked it? It's like, no, he stabbed her in the neck. There's no way she faked, because, like, she's good at playing possum. I mean, she pretended to be passed out and everything, but he stabbed her in the neck. Like, and not unless she did somehow survive, but it was like, yeah, they put the box in the incinerator too. I'm like, I think she's gone. I don't think there's a fake out there. You never know. because it makes me think of another movie, in particular that there was a fake out, but like this particular fake out I'm thinking of is kind of what Sabiak did when they came back after the first round of the games and stuff like that, and everyone quit like after they came back afterwards. That like when she faked out with the gas and stuff, but we'll have to wait and see what's in store for us. Like I think there's definitely going to end up being some twist to it. Like I don't know. My money is on Ji Hoon to take care of his family, but also keep his promise to Sabiak. But I'm just so curious to see how they end this. Will it be a thing of he plans on exposing the game at the end of it all? Does he quit at the very end to make sure that everyone's respective loved ones, everyone who died in the game, gets something from this, not just him? Like, I'm curious to see what he will, like, what choice he makes, because I don't think it's going to be as simple as we think it is. I think doesn't necessarily have to be a twist, but it's definitely going to be interesting to see, like, how it shakes out. What are the reveals, what stingers we'll get. We'll see. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.